Let's get this going. So, a lot of business owners sometimes what I hear is I just have to stay on top of everything. That's a theme that I hear over and over, and I get it. Sometimes it's frustrating. You care about the standard, you care about the customer, you care about the reputation of your business, and you care about the community in which you serve. Like you care about people in general. But here's a question. Here's a question. What if having to stay on top of everything is not proof that you care more? Like, what if that is not the problem? What if it is proof that the business has outgrown its service systems? Have you ever considered that? So today I am going to show you why perhaps that is the case and it's not what you think. And that's the whole point of um, our time here today. So the main thing we have to understand is that growth exposes cracks. Growth exposes cracks. And here's why. Like when a business is small, right? The founder, the owner, like the key people know everything about the customer. They know their preferences, the customer's name, what they like, what they don't like. And as the business gets bigger, it gets harder to keep that same level of consistency. And so when the business gets bigger, there's no clear definition of what great looks like. But before we even get into why that happens, let's like go back and talk about how that creates retention drift. Because oftentimes they think it's growth that led to that, but no, it's because you never clearly defined what your service systems are, and that's what leads to the retention drift. So this is what I see. Okay, this is what I see when like because growth exposes cracks, most companies go through what I call the RDC, right? RDC, which is the retention drift cycle. Okay, and here's why. Here's why that happens. When a business is small, like I said earlier, like the owner, the key influencers know everything, know everyone, know what the customer is looking for. But with growth comes complexity. So now, let's say with growth, now you have more employees as a result. Okay, so you have to manage them. You have more customers, and as a result, more complexity in general. Okay. Due to this, you are forced to delegate. You are forced to delegate. And that's something you have to do because growth calls for it. The mistake most leaders make is that they delegate without systems. They delegate without clearly showing their team and helping them understand what great actually looks like. And so that begin to create those inconsistencies. And so due to this drift happening, right? This is all due to growth. But when you were smaller, everything was great. Like you were checking all these boxes. Like it didn't matter. Like the customer could still get a consistent, great experience. Now, due to growth, that leads to this leads to inconsistencies. Inconsistencies. And so you hear customers or clients, however you describe your customers and whatever makes sense in your world, you hear them say, well, they never used to be like that. They have changed. I don't know what happened to them. And that is just the inconsistency that they are feeling because today they come, it's great, tomorrow it's no. They go to that one location, then it's no. Because with growth, you probably have more locations too. Okay. And so, due to the inconsistencies, customers cannot really trust you. And then that leads to that behavior change. Behavior change from customers because they cannot trust you any longer. Now they think, I don't know what I'm going to get, so I'd rather go elsewhere. So this just becomes a cycle that keeps happening. And then that retention drift leads to revenue drift. By, but by the time you become aware of it, it's probably too late. If you're lucky, maybe, I don't know, 6, 12 months, perhaps 18 months before that shows up on the P&L. But at that point, it's too late. So that's why the whole point of having a retention system is to resurface this issue of the retention drift that is going to come naturally due to growth. Bring it up early so you can build the right systems in place. Because if growth is already going to expose these things, then we have to go about and understand, okay, who are we and what is the expectation? And so that's why we have to clearly define who we are by understanding that when it comes to the service and the experience, that is what is driving our retention systems. And so we have to clearly define what great looks like. And that's what it's all about, right? What does great service look like? What does great service look like? And this is so simple and so practical that a lot of leaders ignore. They never define what great looks like. And if you never define it, they will decide it. If you don't define it, they will decide it. Your employees will decide what great looks like because they will try to fill in the gaps, and that's what leads to the inconsistency. And that becomes inconvenience to the customer, become frustration to the customer, and as a result, they also decide where they spend their money. And that's why retention drift leads to revenue drift. Leads to revenue drift. So it's critical that as we grow, we have to be aware of these cracks that happen as a result, and then have the right systems in place to make it right, to take care of the customer, but to also to ensure that our growth is able to keep up with our service systems. And lots of the time, the service systems are not able to keep up with growth. Most businesses outgrow their informal delivery when it comes to the service and the experience. Because when it's small, it's easy. I mean, key people, everyone is close to the fire, and it's easy to get things done. Now, the main thing to understand if you are going to avoid being the main person, right, holding everything together, is that you have to understand that it may not be your people. Like, your people may not be the problem. Your people may not be the problem. Like, if and seriously, when you think of brands that you enjoy, love to do business with, like, do you think they just go about hiring unicorns, like go about just finding great people and they just hire them? Do you think everyone they hire is great at what they do? No, it's the systems that they bring them into that's what makes the difference. So it's not necessarily about the people. Like, it's really about the people. Like, most people don't know this, but like Southwest, when they started, they were terrible at turnaround times. And in the airline industry, turnaround times are everything. But they didn't fire everyone and say, well, you guys are not great, and so we're just going to fire you and just hire people who are right for our system. No, they realized they had a wrong system, because ordinary people with the right systems can deliver extraordinary results with high level of consistency. That is the difference. Because a good person, a good person will always struggle inside a bad system. A good person will always struggle inside a bad system. So it might not be, your people might not be the problem. It's not about the people at all. Then, if you're going to stop being the glue that holds everything together, that feels like you have to keep everyone in check, then you have to understand that owner dependency, founder dependency is not scalable. It's absolutely not scalable. Like, you cannot continue to keep it all together thinking that if you don't um, be on top of it, if you don't look over it, if you don't check, if you are not there, then it's not going to work. Then maybe the problem is you. I'm sorry. Because At this stage, this is assuming you're growing, you're a scaling, growing service-based business. At this stage, you have to understand this. You have to understand this. Alignment is better than agreement. Alignment is better than agreement. Oftentimes, what I hear most leaders say is, well, but if I'm not there, it's not going to get done. I don't think they can do it as well as I am. I mean, if I'm not there, things fall apart. Well, so you think it's a people, but what if it's not a people? So perhaps the better question to ask is this. The better question to ask is this. Have you given them what it takes to be successful? What have you given your people what it takes to be successful? Because that's what it's about. Because alignment is better than agreement. It doesn't matter whether you think your people will not do it as equally good as you. Of course, they shouldn't be able to if you have not given them what it takes. So it's not about being worried that they will not be able to keep up or they don't know what to do. It's a matter of, okay, have you helped them to get to that level? Do they have what it takes to do that? And that's the key, because alignment is better than agreement. It's critical, critical. And finally, we have to understand this, that trust leaks before revenue drops. Okay? Trust leaks before revenue drops. So let me explain. With the RDC that we just talked about, the retention drift cycle, right? Due to growth, you're forced to delegate, or you have more people, more locations, more team members, more customers, whatever that looks like in your world when it comes to growth. That leads to operational drift. As a result, that leads to the inconsistency with your team. And that inconsistency, that's what weakens trust. And that's why trust leaks before revenue drops, because that inconsistency leads to the customer behavior change. The customer begins to think twice before they consider you. The customer begins to look elsewhere, begin to ask other people, friends and family, do you know anyone that does X, Y, Z, even though they've worked with you, because they don't trust you. And so when that happens, then they change course, and then that's what leads to the revenue drop. So trust already leaks due to your inconsistencies, due to that unpredictability. And it's important to understand this. Really, really important to understand it. That to the customer, inconsistency is a risk. Inconsistency is a risk to the customer. And not only is inconsistency an inconvenience, or it's annoying, customers don't like that. Like it's just annoying. And that's where the trust begins. And if you are inconsistent, if you are inconsistent, then it just gets harder to build trust, which ultimately leads to loyalty. And so without consistency, there's no way you can build trust. And that's why trust leaks before the revenue drops. Because if trust leaks due to your inconsistency, that's where the customer behaviors change, and so they never return, they never come back, and then before you see it on your P&L, it's already too late. It is already too late. So, what's the diagnosis to all of this? What's the diagnosis to all of this? The goal is not to keep focusing on finding the right people. The goal is to build the right system. It's never or rarely about people. So it's important to understand this. But this is not also the instance where you just start doing random customer service training. And that's why we don't believe in customer service training. We believe in building a retention system because random customer service trainings doesn't work. It doesn't. You have to have a system. And the mistake I see most leaders make is that they treat customer service as a department. As a department. But great service or customer service in general, it's not a department. It's an identity. Great service is an identity. It's not a department. Customer service is not a department, it's an identity. It's either you have it or not. And if you can go back and think about all the companies or brands that you enjoy doing business with, going from the Ritz to the Chick-fil-A's to the Walt Disney Company, like when you look at them, there's an identity about them. And yes, on the front end, it appears that they are greater service, greater the experience. But behind that, behind all of that, is a retention system. And so it's not about just training people to say we train our people on customer service. It doesn't work because if you understand the principle that customer service is not a department but an identity, then you also understand this that everyone within your organization contribute to the experience because any breakdown at the front lines is a direct reflection on the entire organization. As a consumer, you might order something and the salesperson tells you you'll get it by Monday. Monday comes and you don't get it. You are thinking the salesperson lied to you as a consumer. But maybe they didn't. Maybe that information never got to shipping. Perhaps that information got to shipping, but shipping never saw that it was a priority or never did it on time. So there was a breakdown there. And so, due to all these handoffs happening, due to growth as a business, you can no longer think about putting customer service or putting retention in a department. It is an identity because everyone is contributing to the experience of the customer, of the client, however you define it in your world. And that is the difference between average companies and world class brands that understand the importance of a retention system. This is not about improving customer service. This is not about improving customer experience. This is beyond that. It's about building a system that retains your client, raises your revenues, and protects your profit as you grow. So, I, over the next few weeks, right, I'll be helping three scaling service businesses identify where service inconsistency is creating that retention drift that we just explained. And if you're an owner, a founder, an operator, and you want to identify where your service systems might be leaking you client, customers, and as a result, revenue, go ahead and DM me the word plan, and we can talk about how we can work together. If there are no questions, I'll see you in the next one, and I hope you really got something out of it. And as always, remember this: every client you keep is a competitor you beat. I'll talk to you soon.